All right. We're live on Cave Radio right now, Jazz Cabbage Cafe, and I think maybe on Facebook, but we're trying to bring these things together for sure. A little bit of a shaky start here. We're live and confirmed. And we are missing a couple people, but we're sure they'll come in. A couple of audio difficulties, typical for us, but we're going to get started anyway. We have Colin and I in the studio, Cave Radio Studios, and right now Jim and Deb are at their respective homes on Zoom, and that is what we'll get rolling with. We'll hear from Rick soon. I know he's got some exciting news. He's going to do the news live today, and there will be some
excited,
particularly cool stuff involved in it. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm anticipating something exciting from Rick for once. But let's just get started here. I didn't really want to get deep in the issue again, because we talked about it a lot, and it causes a lot of, there's a lot of tension and things like that. But we have reopened. I have traveled around. Of course, cannabis remained a essential service anyway. So I was working a little bit here and there, but it's obvious that not everybody takes it seriously. Not everybody follows the basic protocols, and some people are still very confused about what the mask does, which is protect the wearer from others. So everybody has to wear one for it to work, really. And I'm not sure what the percentages are, but there's enough activity that I've seen that and read about that doesn't include, thinking it's important to follow these basic protocols. And I'm kind of scared we might move backwards in this state as some others have. And I'm just wondering where other people have been able to do. I know that, I still have somebody at home who is high risk, my wife. Colin was right next door to his parents, and his dad's high risk. He's careful about that. Deb has been extremely careful. And I'm just concerned that the message just hasn't been made to enough people to really sustain this. We're doing really well for a while. And I'm curious what other people think about that, and maybe Rick will come on in a minute and we can spin it around normally. If not, then we'll just do it with who we have here, which is fine because I'm interested in everybody here's opinion. But on today's show, we have another candidate for representative of a House seat, District 4 out of Detroit, Tawana Simpson. This is our 5th or 6th time in a row having such a candidate on, and we're coming up to August where the primaries are going to take place, and there'll be some decisions made who's going to be our decision makers in Lansing. So that's kind of important. We'll get an idea of where she is with cannabis and her more broad platform. And hopefully joining us soon will be Joe White. He's a board member of the state Normal chapter, Michigan Normal, and he's also the director of the Motor City Normal chapter in Detroit. And that's going to start coming back online a little bit too. Some discussion, needing to go in some capacity or doing something. So we'll find out about that as well. I hope that Rick makes it back on, but let's just start moving through a little bit without him. And we got some action taking place. And maybe Deb.
Actually, Roach.
Okay. And Deb, let's start with you because I know that you've been.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically still stuck in my damn house because I don't trust the general public to be wearing a mask. I mean, I've been out very limited, and what I've seen is about half and half. And I see people. I keep envisioning, this might sound gross, but like this big, moist, open mouth spewing forth virus, and it's keeping me in my damn house. I don't understand how difficult it is to put a mask on when you go out to protect other people. Because
you're not wearing a mask, you're spitting on people, man. I mean,
you're literally spitting on people, and I just think it's disgusting. And I don't know what to do. I mean, this is America. Americans do whatever the fuck they want. Sure. I'm wondering how the hell we would have survived other historical events where people had to really crack down and get together. Recently I posted a meme about what if a few people in London during the Blitz said, "Oh, fuck it, I'm going to turn my lights on." The whole city would have been destroyed. There's times in history when humanity has to come together for the good of the public, And I think this is one of those times. I know a lot of people disagree with that. I hear people screaming about, how dare I inflict, their rights and force them to wear a mask in public. How dare you try to infect me with something in public when it's so easy to block it? And it really is not that hard. You put the mask on, you do your thing, you leave, you can take your mask off when you get home or in the car. I mean, let's all have regard for other people. That's my opinion on it. I'm not leaving the house until I know that people are acting responsibly. I can't go in a store, Jamie, and turn around and have some dude behind me coughing on my shoulder. What the fuck?
Right. There's a lot of confusion with this. I mean, your analogy with the war, I mean, that's so obvious that you don't want to be bombed. So you contribute your part by going along and doing what everybody else is doing so you can avoid the tragedy. This one's more complicated. I'm not sure why. A lot of people don't trust government. That's one big thing. A lot of people aren't seeing the sickness and death right in front of their face. Maybe that's some of it, although you can look on the news and see where it is all over the place. I'm not sure what it takes, but we don't know a lot about this. But one thing we do know is that if you follow these basic protocols, we significantly reduce risk, and then we're able to start moving forward again. So, hey, sorry, go ahead, Deb.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I think a lot of people have taken it as a political thing, and it's not a political thing. It's a public safety measure.
Right.
I don't care if you love Trump or hate him. It's something that needs to be done, that we've seen it work in other countries. So why the hell don't we do? What do we have? 130-some thousand dead people already? Come on.
Yeah. It has worked in our state. I just think that people.
And the longer
thought it
we
was over, it's not.
Yeah, but Jamie, the longer we don't do this, don't you think that the longer this shit's going to keep going on, we're in danger of getting shut down here again because people are not paying attention. Yeah, they're not paying attention.
There's some people are, but they view this completely differently. That's what's making this so.
Yeah, no, I know that they view it totally different, and I can't. Usually, I can kind of relate and understand a different point of view. This, I'm just not getting. I don't know. What do you think, Jim?
Jim Salame, lay it on us, man. Are you concerned about lack of protocol?
Well, I'm still concerned. I'm still very concerned about it. I have been autoimmune. That I kind of worry about if I would get it, what would happen. I think I'm healthy enough with my diet and how I take care of myself that I could battle it pretty good and fight it off. But the thing that stinks is it is 50-50 out there when you're walking around in public. There are 50% wearing masks, 50% not. And that's pretty much like the draw of the political football that they're using the whole mask issue about is and passing it across the aisle like that. So I don't know. I think the concern is even greater now than it was in the beginning, because I think it's more prevalent everywhere now. And what we need, unfortunately, to happen is for some of the people who've called it a hoax, they need to, have somebody close to them, unfortunately, or they themselves have to get it in order to see the seriousness of it, and then have to deal with the health system that's in front of them, and then come out and go, hey, I was wrong. Having people come out and admit that after the fact, I think is really important, instead of trying to sweep it under the rug. So.
Yeah, hey, what's up, everybody? If I can jump in real quick. I just want to say, I feel like there's a psychological aspect to the coronavirus that isn't being addressed, and it's only being made worse by the way the information is being presented to the public. A lot of people feel like it's a hoax because they feel that you wear a mask to protect yourself from the virus. And if that were the case,
right?
If that were the case,
right?
Then it would be like a hoax. So that's where that kind of thinking gets ground, And I said on Medical Mondays yesterday, as crazy as it sounds, it's just like a human evolution of the brain. When we hear that something happened to a small number of people, it hits home with us. But when we hear this huge number that our brain can't even visualize, it just kind of passes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, it's not being internalized.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, it really is.
Disconnect from it. Yes.
Yeah, it's a desensitizing of the society to begin with. But on such a large scale. I think you're right. A number of, what is it, 140,000 is incomprehensible. People died in 3 months. What the hell, you know?
People are used to being
figures.
afraid of it, and they're getting used to that.
So,
Yeah,
that was
because
just
it's
a,
around it, yeah.
that was
You know,
just a roach.
we are getting false information. We are getting a lot of BS out into the
Yeah.
air on both
Yeah.
sides, and
Yeah.
people just get frustrated and decide to just live their life.
Yeah, there's some stuff you have to kind of like get through to see what's going on and to understand the motivation behind wanting to protect yourself and others from what's going on right now, and not everybody's connecting with that. So,
Yeah.
Rick, we were talking about whether or not there are concerns amidst this group for Michigan and the possibility of having to peel back some progress that we've made because of lack of participation in protocols. Are you seeing that? Are you concerned about that yourself?
I am. I think we've seen other states, governors from other states have cited the reason for their spikes or their extra oomph in the wave, as they like to describe it, is people not complying with some of the regulations. You know, we talked about on last night on Medical Mondays, sometimes people just don't believe the government, and they have very good reason to not believe the government. But there are sometimes when the message comes from non-governmental sources, like trusted medical advisors, and comes from too many sources for it to have been crafted or created. That's things like, you know, wear your mask, social distance. These things are important. I think that as we get used to it, people get tired of conformity, and they just drop it because they don't realize that there's still a continuing danger. That's my thought.
I agree with that. And we can finish. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Anybody have some more input? Because we're going to finish.
Yeah,
up.
I just want to say, like, you know, this is still the same government that says that cannabis is a Schedule I drug. This is still the same government that told us that there was going to be reefer madness and, you know, all of this BS. And the government has a really bad
Correct.
track
They've
record.
earned the reputation of not being able to.
Yeah.
So there's no question. And this is where.
Yeah, but government is performing very poorly in this pandemic. So I think that that's a big
You know?
indicator too, Roach. You know what I mean? It's not like they're out there with the leadership and they're telling us that, because they're not. We're kind of flapping in the wind and kind of looking for local leadership on this kind of shit. Trump's acting like this stuff is done and over as the numbers keep
Well, that's a
rising.
huge problem. We don't need to get too deeply into it, but from the top, from the federal government on down has been
It's
absent.
been fucked up.
Having a coherent strategy and doing things in a timely manner with this, and that has really caused a lot of issues for states. And then that attitude, some governors picked up on, or like, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and
The
you know,
economy is more important.
livelihood issue. And that's an important discussion, and there is some line there at some point, maybe, you know. And they decided to blow it off and just go for it early. And everybody warned, everybody in the CDC, Dr. Fauci, everybody who's actually, you know, a professional working on this issue said, don't open too soon or it's going to cause problems. Open too soon, spikes, surges all over the place, and they have to peel it back.
Well, part of the problem that we're facing here is that it's a decentralized response. Instead of the federal government having the first and last word on it, we got 50 individual states. 50
I'm
individual
saying.
states deciding.
No
this stuff.
federal strategy and lack of timeliness. Exactly. And Trump,
Yeah,
I mean,
the
only-
whole state's right. Yeah,
he
he
disbanded the
dumped it.
pandemic response team. He didn't use the playbook. This was predicted for years that something like
No.
this was going to happen.
He dumped it in the state's lap and then blamed them when things got out of control because he wasn't offering any assistance.
And it's several other businesses that produce lots of chemical waste in our district.
You know, while we're on the subject, why don't we just give a little memorial here to DeAndre Watson. I'm not sure if too many people are familiar with DeAndre, but he was a big part of the Detroit City Council in their efforts to draft cannabis laws. Whether you believe they were successful with their drafting, whether you believe that was not successful or not, Mr. Watson always was professional. He and I almost never agreed on any of the issues we discussed, but he never treated me poorly. Even though I was outside of the city and I was not a person that was a direct constituent in his district, he always treated me with respect. And he was a great guy. He was a sharp dresser. He was very intelligent. I really thought he had a lot of future ahead of him. And it's tragic to see another victim of gun violence. You know, sometimes it's just so many, you stop paying attention to the numbers. But some people have such a personality, you have to stop and pay homage.
Yeah, I heard about this on the news yesterday. It was horrible. Sounds horrible.
You know, nobody deserves to die, you know, bullet to the head in a car and just be left in the middle of the street. But you know, this murder suicide thing, it's hard to get your head wrapped around where those people must have been emotionally at the time when those events happened. You have to be at your limit of desperation, and heaven forbid that I should ever be to that point. You know,
Just got back in. I read about that. Such a young dude with such a bright future. That's
Yep.
always more tragic.
You know, like I mentioned, he and I almost never agreed on anything when we discussed things, but I never felt like I was mistreated or demeaned after speaking with Mr. Watts.
Any help? He helped me get the conversation with Councilman Tate when necessary, even though those things didn't go our ideal way. The communication was there, and he helped out with that.
Yeah, it's been a long process, and of course, we may be paying attention to him because of the work he did in the cannabis field, but his skills covered so many different topics and so many different projects within the city. We may consider the cannabis ordinance as a great unfulfilled promise to the citizens of Detroit, but there were a lot of things that they did complete, and he was an intricate part of that. And I'm sure his legacy will be felt, just much like Isaac Robinson, who Tawana Simpson mentioned earlier. Isaac was a great person. Before he was a House rep, he was a good guy. He worked with the city. He was a big, jolly giant, always had a big smile on his face. And COVID took him from the earth before he was ready to go. And that's just sad.
So where are we at right now? Sorry to come in here after, I do feel a lot better though, if anybody's interested.
Thanks.
We've begun discussing outside of the heat, using cannabis and coming back in to the AC, feeling the effects of the cannabis was a good combination.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking with our candidate for the House seat representative, District 4, and I can see why the conversation got to this, unfortunate passing that we're talking about. But in general, we're kind of like to hear the view on the city at large, the take on the cannabis issue there, and how they're handling it, and your opinion of that, the ability to maybe take more advantage of the social equity opportunities that come with this emerging industry, cannabis, and then your kind of your platform more at large, a broader platform.
Okay, yep. I can barely hear you. I don't know if it's a sound problem on my end, but can you please repeat that? I know you said a lot, but it was very choppy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean to load it all up, but it's all. Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me right now? I'm sorry because we're having some.
We can just speak really loudly and directly into the microphone if you could, please.
Got it. Sure. Got it. Okay. So, want to get your formal position on cannabis reform. What's going on? How do you feel about how the city is handling it, and specifically whether or not taking advantage of the social equity opportunities enough, or if the plan that you're aware of the city would address that issue and use it enough for an emerging industry. And then if you want to address your broader platform and stuff, what you're typically running on.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for those questions. They're all very good questions. And my name is Tawana Simpson. I'm a candidate for state rep for District 4. And yes, I definitely support the cannabis industry. The importance of it on more than one side, the medical side as well as the recreational side, but also the other things that can be made from hemp and cannabis, the industry in its totality. And I know that Isaac was working on legislation to amend, or I don't know, we were discussing and with other activists from other states more about whether I new social equity language or amend what we had going on because of what's going on in Detroit and the city opting out, and that the bill really wasn't, to me, written fairly. So those are my views about, what's going on with the city and the social equity piece. I know if I'm elected, I definitely want to work further on that. And also making sure Bill 5120, makes it to the floor and get voted on for the expungement that Representative Isaac Robinson put together, expunge all the marijuana convictions across the state.
Right.
So those are some of the things that I'm really concerned about. And I know that it would make a very, very big difference in how Detroiters live with that expungement bill becoming law. Between 40 to 50% of the city residents could actually have a second chance at applying for higher paying jobs in the city and actually throughout the state.
Right on. So the audio continues to be a little shaky, just so you know. So I'm kind of catching most of it, but it's not sounding real clear all the time.
Okay, I apologize. That's the way I'm talking straight into my mic. Can you hear me clearer now?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I said that I definitely approve of the marijuana industry. I want to go further on some of the bills and that Isaac started that I'm sorry that Isaac had going on. So sorry, I lost.
We kind of caught that, and that's cool because he was really good for our issue, kind of taking over that spot. And you're planning on also supporting and picking up some things where he was leaving off, and I believe that's what you're saying too.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't want to cut the fan on because
Okay.
too much noise, but it got really hot here.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, I've got mine running.
95.
It's too hot not to, for real.
Can only handle
Don't
staying
kill
outside,
yourself
so.
for us, for real.
Right. Yep. Take it easy and be safe. But keep hearing that. I'm sure you're going to do things in your own way, but to continue that spirit of being in support of this issue is
oh, most definitely, most definitely. Because I believe that it's the industry that can help our city, help the working class, and it's an industry where we lost a lot of jobs places in the auto industry. We can, here's another industry wide open that people can go into. They can become growers, they can become processors. I mean, it's just an array of things that people can do, and it means a lot to me to show people that it's just not about getting high. It's about helping people, calming people down, making denim jeans. Now I heard they're making jeans out of hemp and cement and all types of things.
and of course, if somebody wanted to get high, they shouldn't have to get arrested or go to jail over it.
Exactly.
It should not. As a matter of fact, I'm encouraging my constituents, the constituents of District 4, to call in right now to put an amendment to the bill 5120, not to test for marijuana in order to get a job.
Yeah.
So if it's legal,
Right.
should they use that against?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah,
A lot of the business. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, a lot of businesses in Detroit are owned by folks that don't necessarily live in the city, and that really creates an income disparity amongst the residents. What proposals would you like to see the city implement to ensure that the cannabis industry is embraced by Detroiters first?
Well, first they need to opt in. They need to opt in and allow the Detroiters that can participate, have an opportunity to, as we speak, and then work the kinks out as we go along. It makes no earthly sense to me. It's not opting in.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it defies logic. It really does.
Right.
Well,
There's so many opportunities out there for people. It just defies logic. What you're encouraging people to set up on the perimeter of the city and get their businesses established, and then they're not going to want to move across. I mean, why would they move at that point? Look at all the people and the economic, the social equity, the economic they're losing out on all the stuff that the people in the city who qualify for they're losing out on this. How long is that good for, Jamie? That equity program?
You know, that is a good question. I think I would
It's
assume
perpetual.
it's ongoing.
Is it
As long as you
perpetual?
meet
But
the
it's a
criteria.
shame. But this is the very people, this is the very type of situation where this program applies to. This is the very people this program was written for. And they're being denied that. They can't use it. They can't use it. And people could absolutely open businesses that made it affordable for people to do that in the city. It just makes no sense to me.
These types of emerging industries don't come along very often. And here's one.
Never.
We could
Not
take
on this
advantage
scale.
of it. We could be taking advantage of it to right a lot of those problems we're very aware of now. And it's just not moving in that direction. Certainly that place where it's obvious where it should be happening.
Certainly, we see communities all across Michigan that use great incentive in order to get business to come in. They give tax abatements, they do road reconstruction, they put up stop signs and stop lights and recreate all kinds of different stuff in order to seduce business to come in. All we really need is just you to say, yep, and we'll do the rest. Shelly, did you want to try and slide in here? It looks like you've been trying to talk, girl.
What's that?
Did you want to contribute? It looks like you were trying to say something.
Shelly Smith, Weeds and Reeds.
I think her phone might just be
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I
she's
had
here in
about
support of
10
the spirit.
and then my little phone holder fell down, and so yeah,
Okay.
Technical difficulties.
get a
All right.
handle on the conversation because the first time I was on, I couldn't really very
so
sorted. So
Tawana, how long have you been in the 4th District? Is that someplace you've grown up? You've been around for a while?
are you talking to me?
No, Tawana Simpson, who's running for House Rep in the 4th District.
Gotcha. Okay.
I've lived in different parts of District 4 my entire life.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
And who better to represent that community than somebody who's of the community and has seen everything that goes on there. Same thing with Al Williams. He's running against somebody who was just recently moved into the area.
Right.
That isn't from the community.
I think when you're growing up someplace, you have a perspective. We did this in 20 years ago. We did this 10 years ago. We did this 5 years ago. When you just walk into the neighborhood, you have no sense of history. You recreate past failures because you don't know any better, and you dismiss valued voices because you don't recognize their value. So I'm glad to hear that you're from your district that you're proposing to represent. That's great.
Hey, I have a question for Tawana. Is the Russell Industrial Center in District 4?
And Shelly, can you?
I didn't hear that.
I believe she said yes, it is.
Everybody's not talking, mute, and then unmute when you talk. There's a lot of background noise right now that needs to be muted. Somebody individually.
Yeah, I think that's Shelly. But
We'll see if we can mute her from this end.
all right, hold
But
on.
the question, Tawana, was the Russell Industrial Center is in District 4.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
And then I also wanted to ask you, what did you think of the impact that the High Times and the Bazaar had on District 4? Was it positive, negative? How would you grade it?
I heard. Yeah, so it was very positive.
I caught a little bit that said it was very positive.
Yeah, I don't know. If Shelly can hear us, if she could mute her mic, that would be cool.
Shelly, please mute your mic. There we go.
All right, here we go.
Sorry about that. She couldn't hear us probably because the connection wasn't good enough to hear us. It was good enough to pick up on her sound, but please go ahead.
So the Russell is inside District 4 then, is that what we gathered?
I said it is.
And you thought that the High Times Cannabis Cup was outstanding.
Outstanding.
Okay.
Embellished a little bit.
All right. And then I guess, just really know what I mostly know about District 4 is the Russ. I guess I wanted to know what can be done to bring the community up by people that just seem to only come to the Russell.
Oh, I have to keep referring back to our Honorable Isaac Robinson. We had a team. I'm a former school board member and I represented the same district as District 3 was my school board district. So that's how we became very close friends and working together. So Isaac was giving a jazz concert once a month. And so we were bringing people from all over the district to one place once a month. And we informed them what was going on in the district. And then we played a little music, a little jazz, and people got to know each other and things like that. So, we were building bridges, in the district, but there's a lot of nice things going on in District 4. A lot of people don't know the city airport is a part of District 4. And, under the CARES Act, there was a lot of airports. So we have quite a few jewels in the District 4. Midtown is part of District 4. Of course, the city of Hamtramck. We have a couple historic communities. Actually, you have 3, 4 if you include the LaSalles. You have the Boston, Edison, Atkinson, and then over at Broad Street. Get the name of that one. It's
yeah, I didn't know to go so far east to incorporate the airport because it was pretty good.
So, District 4 is very, 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 very diverse.
Yeah, I guess it is, and I was just mostly referring to that, that little area right there between 75 and like the Lodge, let's say.
North End 75, Hamtramck area.
Yeah, and I feel that it's what we like about the Russ is that it's secluded and it is kind of industrial, so there's not a lot of residential stuff going on, which is good. But at the same time, it is part of a neighborhood, and I feel like you should always pay respect to where you're at.
Well,
so
you got to start your block club or some form of organization. You have to start from the organization, and then that's how we we all come together. It can be based an art program. Been to a couple of galleries over in there. I mean, art shows over there.
Tawana, is anybody doing that jazz thing now that Isaac is unfortunately gone? Because that sounds like a program that should be duplicated everywhere. That's a great bringer together of people.
Right. As of now, no. But once I'm elected, I'm going to do it. And whether I'm elected or not, I'm going to try to make it happen because it was a very, very nice event. And I met so many people there, and and it was just a beautiful thing. And what was most enlightening about it was that you watch the community grow and learn, and people they felt comfortable to ask questions. They wasn't worried about a block club or who's going to get elected or not elected. It was a different way of bringing people together. And it's all about 30 minutes of business, and the rest of the Sunday evening would be entertainment. It was really nice.
Well, music is the great unifier, and Detroit is one of the greatest music cities on the planet. So it seems like a natural match. I would love to see that duplicated all over the place.
Yeah, it would. It would. I mean, it should. It should be. I think it will, because people understood that's how Isaac brought a lot of people together. Isaac was a ballroom dancer.
That was a big man to be a ballroom dancer, boy.
He was light on his feet. He was the man on the dance floor.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you familiar with any data from your campaign? How you're looking? What the prospects are in August for your chances of success?
It's really hard to see in a local race like this. I got in the race very late, so I just started from a grassroots point, and most people know me because of my work with the schools when I was on the K through 12, when I was on the Detroit Board of Education, and then the work that I did with Isaac. So I knew that I could get across the district pretty well, but to say exactly from data point of view, I really don't know yet.
Polling is usually something people pay for, so I'm sure there's not a lot of people paying at this stage for polling on local elections.
Yeah.
How many people are in the race? How many are for the primaries, August?
It's 13 people.
Wow. Pretty big field. That's kind of good. I mean, a lot of people want to be involved, want to get elected and make decisions and help things. It's been a long time where there's been a lot of apathy, it seems like, and the effects became obvious. So people are spurred to kind of want to contribute a little bit
And
more.
Tawana, you've been in your district your entire life. Have you ever seen 13 people vying for this office before?
No, not this many. I think when Rosemary races, it was 6, but no, I haven't seen 13.
That's a lot of enthusiasm for politics, you know, in a time when people really are getting sick of politics. That's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't.
I wish the field was a little bit more narrow. Probably.
That, you know, a lot of people seeing an opportunity, and
Where can people find out more about your you donate?
Facebook, Twitter, Tawana4Michigan.org is my website. And Tawana Simpson on Facebook, Twitter, and Save Our Schools Instagram.
Okay. Tawana4Michigan.org, and is that the number 4 or spelled out 4?
It's Simpson, the number 4, Michigan.org.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, it's .com. I got 2. It's not.
Okay. Simpson, 4 Michigan, the number 4.com.
And when is the primary election for you?
August 4th, but you know, we're trying to encourage everyone to vote absentee so that we can practice social distancing and everybody be safe.
I've heard that there's like a million more requests for absentee ballots at this time than there were at the relative time for the 2016 election.
Well, no one had to request them. This legislator passed it and sent everyone in the state an application for the absentee.
Right.
Which is really the way it should be. Just like expungement, you shouldn't have to go through hoops to get your record expunged. The state should automatically or make it as easy as possible to accomplish expungement. I think perhaps some of the bills that are currently before the legislature make it more difficult for cannabis felons to expunge their records than it does for other types of crimes.
Right, not taking advantage of these easier ways to vote is, part of the suppression that we see. It's pretty obvious in an attempt to try to empower and keep people from having input, having a voice. So hopefully this does really help with that. There's a lot of changes. Before we kind of wrap up, one of the questions that we've asked people the last couple of weeks on this show is the uprising in response to the disproportionate treatment to our Black and brown citizens. That's obviously really set off by the most recent issue with Floyd in Minneapolis. And do you see this uprising, the series of protests, making a difference and actually finally turning the corner in some areas?
Well, protests definitely is causing conversation. Change will have to come from each individual person. That's this really breaks down to your moral compass. So, but I think talking about it, bringing things to light. But the protesting, I think is good. It's good for activists if that's where they are in their activism. But it's going to take protesting. It's going to take active listening. It's going to take compromise. It's going to take people wanting to work together to really get over this or get through this.
Right. So anything else you want to leave us with before we move on and end this segment?
Yes. I guess I want to say to everyone that I am not a politician. I'm a humanitarian. but I decided to run because when with working with Isaac and his mom and spending my life in this district, I put a lot of energy and effort into, bringing us together and sharing and caring. And so that was my reason for running, stepping up, being a leader in that capacity. But I so heartily believe that the cannabis industry changed the lives of many people in the city of
All right,
Detroit.
we really appreciate it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was finished. And hello? I think we lost each other. Hello?
Tawana, it's really a bad
Yeah,
connection.
no.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being on Just Cabbage Cafe today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I thank you guys. Maybe you have me.
Keep radio Wi-Fi taken off.
Yeah, we'll have you back because we'd like to talk to you more. It was a great, intriguing conversation, and we didn't get enough of it. So thank you.
Yeah, and we support your approach to this. I appreciate your coming on the show, as Rick just said, and we'll be in touch, and hopefully we'll have our audio stuff in better shape for a subsequent conversation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
We'll be rooting for her. I know she would like to see a more narrow field, but it's kind of a good sign that so many people want to participate in this process.
Well, a lot of people say that they want to run, but when they realize what it costs and how difficult it is, even with only 1 month left before the election, I think people will not be really pushing their candidacy to the degree I think Tawana Simpson was going to be. She's got a fire. She's got righteous motivation. I think that pushes you forward when other people flail.
Yeah. I like what she had to say. I like the fact that she worked with Isaac Robinson, that she's with the school board, she's out with the community. She checks all the boxes for representative in your district.
Nice.
So I think we have been joined now by Joe White, who's a board member of Michigan Normal and the director of the Motor City Normal chapter in Detroit. Joe, are you there with us?
Sure am. Thanks for having me.
It sounds good too. Yeah, you're welcome, man. Glad to have you back on. You've been in studio with us before. Man, we are, one of our original questions today was and we'll ask you to get started, because I want to talk about what's going on and bringing Motor City Normal back and stuff like that. But are you concerned that we're going to have to take another dip back here along the way with a spike or a surge in cases and how people are like following or not following protocol?
Yeah, and pretty much what I'm suggesting to the group and to the organization, we will probably start doing cyber meetings up until the time some type of vaccine is out there to protect people, because, you know, we're still dealing with the unknown here. And this thing is beginning to mutate. Now they're saying it could possibly be airborne. So the whole possibility of meeting in groups again, I don't know, that's really questionable. But my suggestion, recommendation to the group is that we begin to host some cyber meetings, and stay in touch, keep the word going, keep the information out there.
You know, 10 years ago, that probably wouldn't have been an option for most people because the tech really wasn't available. But now we really can.
Yeah, yeah. So just like we're meeting here now. I mean, this is really cool. Anyone can do it from their home.
So I remember one of the last physical meetings at the Cannabis Council offices in Detroit, 4930 East Jefferson. We were discussing getting a hold of different areas around the city and trying to arrange for like town hall style discussions or community meeting kind of discussions on these issues. And of course, then all this happened. So that idea was completely on hold for as long as it takes to get back to the ability to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, through meeting again online, some other strategies, other ways of making a difference, I'm sure will be put together. Maybe Colin will even join in again at that point.
I think that I'll be there. I could probably do the Zoom meeting and be able to broadcast on Facebook or something.
Right. Because Colin was involved in this organization.
I was.
Too, took the job of the Wayne County Commissioner.
Yeah, and Bloom at the same time,
Right.
so I just didn't really have time. I remember, I think last summer was the last time I went, probably around this this time last year. The last physical meeting I was in. Right.
Czar, everybody's all types of stuff. You know, tonight, Joe, too, after about 7 o'clock, about an hour after the show, although we had like about 5:45 these days because of the studio here. There's going to be a meeting for the Democratic caucus, cannabis caucus, and people taking certain positions on there. So everybody can do that. It's who wants to participate, and
also Jim has an event at the same time.
yeah, but that information for the cannabis caucus, Democratic caucus, is on the Facebook. It's in like stuff like that. Go ahead, Jim. What do you got going on? And then we'll get back on. We'll get back with Joe.
Hey guys, we got Home of Medicine tonight, 7 p.m. Jeff Irwin talking about political involvement, how to get involved. Starts at 7. Check it out. Home of Medicine's Facebook page.
Really good, and Owen does a lot of great things like that. Recently had DJ Short helped to sponsor one of his, talks on growing and breeding and all that kind of stuff, and that raised money for a good cause. So that's all good, and there's a lot of stuff going on, so some things conflict. Maybe some people are going to try to go back and forth a little bit. But our Senator Irwin will also be planting green trees Thursday night, 8 to 10. He's going to talk about the expungement in the Senate right now.
He's a true superhero.
Yeah.
Even through this pandemic, still out there fighting, still out there lifting the cause.
Especially serving in a legislature where you know there's a lot of people that don't do the mask thing, that don't do social distancing, that really have a lot of disdain for the governor and every single policy that she puts forth. So it's got to be tough to be a Democrat in the Michigan legislature in 2020. In the minority in both houses, you got no power. Still showing up every day, doing your best. That's a trooper, man.
And then guns in the state house. What's that all about?
Yeah, I know.
Yes,
it's a fear too. So, I hope the composition changes greatly, based on what happens in November. I'm really excited about the end of gerrymandering in 2022.
Mm-hmm. We've seen some great House representative candidates come through this show. Jamie's done a great job of booking a bunch of people. Really sound like they have good futures in politics. And if we get the House flipped, that'll give us a real opportunity to get some legislation through. But the gerrymandering Jamie's talking about, that'll affect positively. That'll right size our political landscape here in Michigan for years to come. We have 2 senators, both of them are Democrat and have been for a long time. We have a governor that's a Democrat, attorney general that's elected Democrat, and then we have a House and Senate that's full of Republicans because of the way they cut the districts. And so this doesn't represent the true feeling of the state.
There was a lawsuit that was trying to push the issue of changing the gerrymandering districts by this year. And that actually had an order from state court, but the issue was challenged in federal court, and the ability to do that issuance of the state court was knocked down. But recently the formation of the group that's going to decide what the districts are was challenged and was upheld by the federal courts. So everything looks like it's moving through as planned by our new law for 2022. And I think that was going to line up the road. You have to then pay attention to the collective consciousness of your constituents, and not just know that you're going to get in for sure next time. It's just been missing for so many years. These people have just done whatever they want to do. It's not democracy or any kind of decision making that's best for everybody involved.
When we see a locked up legislature like this, it's the best argument for term limits, because the fact is we suffered under Senator Jones and his leadership for 6 years in the House and for 8 years in the Senate. And that was a dark 14 years for the state of Michigan. He wasn't the governor, he wasn't the attorney general, but he wielded massive power as the chairperson of the House Judiciary and later the Senate Judiciary. He decided what bills for cannabis came before the committee and how they were affected, how they were amended, and decided whether or not they even got considered at all. So those are some check valves that I'm glad time rotates us past, because if there were no term limits, we'd still have Rick Jones's potbelly sitting there calling us dirty patients in the Senate chambers.
Oh boy,
he was out of his mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
30 years sheriff, he's gonna have a different point of view than us on a lot of these issues. But he had time to kind of learn some stuff, and he did not. Go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
When he kicked Dakota Cerna out of the Senate Judiciary Committee meeting because he said police officers use jackboots and stomp down our families when they come to take our children from Child Protective Services, called them thugs and jackboots, and he took issue with this portrayal of law enforcement. Let's forget for a second that there's a First Amendment, right? He decided that within his particular committee, he was not going to tolerate any bad talking of law enforcement, and they get into a little verbal spat, and eventually Dakota left. But it was a tense scene for a moment. He's also said, Victor Vicious, he said, "Are you under the influence of cannabis?" He says, "I'm a medical marijuana patient." Of course I am. He said that. "You don't get to talk. Sit down."
Oh, yeah.
He limited our time to speak to 30 seconds in one committee. 30 seconds is all he gave us to speak. And yeah, he was not a nice guy.
So Joe, how you been handling the lockdown?
Well, you know, at my age and my condition, I've survived many, many things over the generations. And for those who may not know, I'm a child of the 50s. So I saw Detroit going through a lot of changes, and there's been a lot of concerns, but never in my life have I seen anything like this. All these conditions falling on society at any one time. So me personally, I've been locked down since late February, honestly, not going anywhere, practicing social distancing, only going out when I need to go out. And of course, smoking my own, I'm Jamaican with that one. You know, I just roll my own, smoke my own, so everyone, you know, just there's no more of this passing of joints. But other than that, I've been doing damn well, you know, all things considered. And now that it's slowly opening back up, it's getting kind of scary because according to science, the numbers in Michigan are slowly going back up, which could mean we're just not even out of the first phase of it, but we're expanding this first phase. And heaven knows what's going to happen when October and November gets here during the cold and flu season that's going to be here. So it's just really been a strange thing. And then on top of that, of course, we have a huge civil rights discussion that needed to be talked about in the 50s and 60s, and it's taken this long for this to happen. But myself and many of my generation, we are damn glad to see it happen before we leave this earth.
So are you seeing some real change coming out of this uprising, these protests?
Change to me would be one simple issue. And again, I'm old school. I'm going back to my roots and my generation, but the issue that really needs to be resolved is one of economics and poverty. That is the root cause of so much disdain for other people simply because they cannot, what you might say, fit into society. So these other societies exist, which is okay for people that live in that, but when it's exposed to the general public, you know, thugs, hooligans, anarchists, all these types of words start coming up. But I believe really that the American public will see this for what it is, and we need to do something about our old past so we can move future generations to a better society. Other than that, it's going to be chaos.
Now, Joe, we're seeing right now society saying no more to openly displaying the signs of white supremacy, nooses, Confederate flags, the statues of slave generals. We're seeing society remove some of those things, saying this is no longer acceptable. You see that as a positive step, right?
Well, yes, I do, but I'm hoping it doesn't move too fast, too far, because some people are always going to be resistant to change, and they will find excuses, if you will, to turn change into something else. So
Well
we have to be careful moving forward that we move forward with progress, but not too fast. And as far as the statues go, you know, this is really going to be a long drawn out discussion when we look at statues. Statues of seditionist generals, hell yeah, they should go. You know, no doubt about that. Statues that relate to seditionist colonies that were in America, which was the Confederate South, all that should go away. You know, no other country on this planet would allow that to happen. Just look at Germany.
That's right.
You know, you try to fly a Nazi flag if you want to in Germany, you're going to have problems. So the point is, you know, progress is slow, but we're getting there, and hopefully it will continue.
It seems as though there will be some gain from this. I'd like to see it be very profound, really a change, you know, a change of course in thinking. But we have to see if that happens. But I'm kind of encouraged by the direction that it's taking, the amount of continued participation in keeping up the noise. You know, that's just kind of important too.
One of the things we've talked about in the last couple of shows, including this show too, is how this indicates a real distrust for government. And it's born of many lies told in many circumstances over many years, not all of them related to the drug war. But I mean, really, people distrust everything they hear from the government, including safety advice on how to handle the pandemic, including advice on how to safely open your business or how to stay at home when you should. I mean, government's really done a bad job of being a good brother. And this is one of the areas in which that deficiency really shows.
Oh, no doubt. Just look at how the pandemic in America is being handled. There is no national policy. Every crisis that this country has faced, there has been some national policy or leadership from the front to help the states have some form of guidance. That way we have these regulatory systems that everyone can abide by and believe in or buy into. But with no leadership, states are left to their own accord. It's going to be helter-skelter. And I'm hoping you're not going to see some states saying, oh, you have New York tags, you're not coming into Indiana, or, you know, vice versa. You know, we could be heading down that road.
The U.S. is blocked out of many other countries.
Yeah. But for the first time ever, the United States is considered the dirty nation, and other places do not want to accept our money and our tourism. Lo and behold, look what we've done. Look where we're at.
Issues with the lack of the top on down coherent strategy to take care of this.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm not in a decision-making process in the middle of this pandemic, because I have a feeling like you go left, you go right, you're still not going to win either way. But there are some common sense things that I think most Americans look at and they say, yeah, that makes sense to me. And we don't see the president doing them. We don't see the vice president doing them. We see doctors saying they should, and then we see our leaders ignoring that advice. That contributes to an America that doesn't pay attention to the rules. Wouldn't you say, Joe?
Well, yeah, just look at 4th of July holiday weekend. You know, all over the news, they're showing these big pool parties, you know, people out at the beaches. Everything's fine. There's no damn pandemic. By the way, look at our president. You know, he's not wearing a mask, and everyone behind him is not, you know, social distancing. So for some people, they can't comprehend an invisible enemy. So if it's not there and I don't see it, it doesn't exist, which we know is crazy as hell. But
really complex situation because of stuff like that. I mean, it's confusion.
So we need national leadership, and I'm afraid that many people are going to be distracted from the real problem that we're faced with. You know, all this stuff about racism and what Donald Trump says, to me, that's just a smokescreen. The real damn problem is this pandemic and our economy. So as long as I got you screaming at Donald Trump about, you know, his racist views against Bubba Wallace, taking a knee or whatever, you're not really focusing on the big problem, again, which is this pandemic and our economy.
Well, and Joe, the other thing that's been going on for the last 3.5 years is critical changes are being made to the way America's run and our infrastructure. And we're all busy screaming about Donald Trump's latest idiocy, while at the same time, the Department of Homeland Security is making major changes, or they're selling off another national park, essentially, or rescinding back rules that stop people from dumping wastewater into public waters. So on all these different fronts, we're seeing 3.5 years of a reduction in environmental rules and an advancement of a political agenda that's pretty conservative. You know, this pandemic is serious, but it may be just the latest thing that distracts us from what's really going on with government.
Stealing right under our feet.
If you want to do that successfully, you have to put a clown in office, because everybody stares at a clown, right? I mean, that's what happens in the circus. When you want people to watch ring number 2 so you can change stuff up in ring number 1, you send the clowns to ring number 2. And nobody sees you adding the different wheels and cleaning up the donkey crap and all the rest of that stuff from number 1. They're all focused on that bright, shiny object.
Distraction.
You were a ringleader at one point, huh, Rick? Your days with the circus?
Actually, I've barked in many
Really?
occupations in many different ways.
Wow, he's a carny at heart.
Well, you know, I bark at on the street to get people to come into it. We feed the homeless every Sunday in Flint before the coronavirus. That's a barker's job there.
Yeah, you know, and that sucks that you're not doing that because of this. I mean, it's another good program like that, good deeds like that. You know.
The folks that really ran that, I was just a piece of a larger machine, and those people have put out what they call a blessing box right on the same site, so that 24/7 people can come by and pick up some foodstuffs if they need things, and they restock it regularly. So even though we're not able to deliver a hot meal every week like we used to, there's still some sort of support there for people who absolutely need it. The people that we service on the east side of Flint, yeah, they're not homeless per se because they all live in houses. They're just very underserved and usually on fixed incomes and don't have enough to make ends meet. So they don't have automobiles.
For a couple meals helps out, shows up a lot.
Yeah, sure.
You know, our clothes, when we bring clothes for donations, they're the most well received. People really gravitate. You know, there are certain things that they take to and certain things they don't. They don't seem to like shoes for whatever reason, or vegetables. But when you bring
shoes and vegetables,
yeah, I mean, you can bring 3 boxes of shoes week after week and nobody takes a single pair. And you know,
I don't know.
Your vegetables
I
will
guess
go
wearing
bad.
somebody else's shoes is kind of nasty, maybe.
It's just,
you know,
I don't know.
Even used underwear at the, you know.
Exactly, yeah. It's just the thought of it. Maybe even if it's been clean, it's just the thought of it, maybe.
Well, the fact is there's a lot of people out there with an instinct to help. And
sure.
Whenever we do the videos that show the people, you know, receiving benefit from the food that we cook and serve, it always makes people feel good about their city, even if they're not participating. We get some attaboys, we get some folks that are encouraged, and I wonder how many good acts and deeds of kindness we've inspired by people who saw our videos and went out and wanted to do something good for others too.
Hey, Rick, it's 5:15, and we haven't done the news yet. I just want to bring that to your attention. You know, I'm hoping that Joe wants to stick with us till the end of the show and listen to the news with us and then talk about it after. Does that sound good to you, Joe?
Okay.
All right. So let me get myself ready. If y'all could mute yourselves, I would appreciate that. And Jamie, go on speaker view instead of grid view if you could.
We'll have a call attempt.
That's what we do. That's how we do it in the big city. That's how they do it on Medical Mondays, and it works out so damn good.
Man, they have their shit together, though. I mean,
they do.
Are the shit. Medical Monday, 9 o'clock on Mondays on YouTube Live, also Instagram.
You mute the mic.
Okay, mute the mic. And put it on ready.
All right. Well, all right. This is the Cannabis News. I'm Rick Thompson. It's July 7th, 2020. Let's get started. National Public Radio tells us there's a trend popping up in Illinois that we could see in Michigan before long. Cities, counties, and villages creating their own cannabis tax, affecting only those facilities within those communities. On July 1st, communities in Illinois, which had already passed that 3% cannabis tax, began collecting it. Now that includes Cook County, which, if you remember your Blues Brothers at all, that's the heart of Chicago. They approved their 3% tax in January, and the 3% tax is, of course, the maximum tax allowed by the state. One neighboring county is offering a 2.5% tax instead. Like, that's a big difference. So when you visit the Windy City and grab a quick zip, you're going to get hit for 6% tax. That's Chicago's 3% plus Cook County's 3%. Now that's on top of the state cannabis tax of somewhere between 20 and 30% based on THC potency. Here's a quote from the Chicago Tribune. When the tax on cannabis and related products takes effect July 1st, it's expected to make Cook County's marijuana sales among the highest taxed in the country, officials have said. What a lot of trouble. What a crazy program. Michigan's so much better. Now, here's a good report about some national proposals. We know the coronavirus pandemic's destroyed ongoing ballot campaigns for drug law reform measures in many states. We know that Other petition drives would have been initiated if the coronavirus shutdown hadn't happened. What we may not know is how successful drug law reform measures have been across the nation, even despite the virus. With the help of publications Marijuana Moment and Marijuana Business Daily, let's take a look at some of those big cannabis proposals. Last week, Smart and Safe Arizona submitted a lovely number, 420,000 petition signatures to the Secretary of State's office. They only need about 240,000 of those signatures to be valid in order to qualify for the November ballot. Now, this petition, I personally am calling baby step. Now, that gives 21 people 21 years and older 1 ounce to carry and 6 plants at home. Now, come on, guys. It's less than half than what we gave people 2 years ago. It allows people with cannabis convictions to petition the court for expungement instead of automatically expunging, and establishes only 26 social equity ownership opportunities for the whole state. Now, Arizona's proposal sets up a distribution model which charges a 16% cannabis tax. In early polling, the proposal is winning with a 65% margin. You know what that means? You could put more people-friendly stuff in there and still be successful. And don't forget, just 4 years ago, during a presidential election just like this year, Arizona voters said no thanks to a cannabis legalization ballot choice. And that's scary because Marijuana Business Daily reports a poll taken in December found only 51% of state voters favored this 2020 proposal. That's thin. A judge in Idaho ruled in a non-cannabis ballot proposal could have more time to collect signatures. So advocates for the Idaho medical cannabis proposal hope that ruling will apply to them too. The judge may also allow electronic signature collection. Everything's on hold though, because the state predictably announced they will appeal the judge's decision. Now, if his order stands, the medical cannabis proposal will very likely be given the same signature gathering extension. No date's been set for that decision to be made. Now, there's 2 medical cannabis proposals already approved for the 2020 ballot in Mississippi. One was born of the sweat and tears of a good old-fashioned signature drive. The other came from the legislature. Guess which one's more popular with the citizenry? Yeah, you guessed it, the one written by the people. And we'll see what mischief lawmakers bring to the people's petition in the months running up to the election, but I'm watching this one closely. There's also 2 proposals for just one purpose in Montana. Signatures have been submitted for a pair of petitions, one which legalizes cannabis for adults and another which limits that right to just people 21 years of age or older. Approval has not yet been granted for these petitions. But hats off to Nebraska. Their medical cannabis proposal started to collect signatures before the coronavirus pandemic hit. They had only 59,000 collected. They needed 122,000. They relaunched their signature campaign and kicked ass. They collected 122,000 signatures in June alone, according to Marijuana Business Daily. They totally submitted over 180,000 sigs collected from all of their 93 counties. Their medical proposal would allow doctors and nurse practitioners to write recommendations for medical cannabis. You know, that TV show, Jersey Shore, would have been a lot less steroidy if they just let everyone burn doobies in the house. Smoking cannabis indoors could become a Jersey thing this year. Their legislature dropped an adult use cannabis proposal onto the 2020 ballot also. But South Dakota, they've got their stuff together, people. They had both a medical and an adult use proposal already approved for the 2020 ballot before the coronavirus pandemic hit. I mean, get her done early, just in case. It's a good plan. Good job. Couple of proposals regarding entheogenic substances. There's 2 campaigns in one state to legalize entheogenic substances, and both are going to make the ballot in the same election site. And that state is Oregon. 2020 is a crazy year. It's not that crazy yet. Only one of those 2 petitions to legalize currently illegal substances has been approved for the ballot, but the other one has already turned in their signatures, and they feel like they'll be approved for the ballot too. The already approved petition would, according to Kyle Yeager of Marijuana Moment, decriminalize currently illicit drugs and expand substance misuse treatments, which is a weird phrase. The hopefully will get approved petition would completely legalize psilocybin mushrooms for therapeutic purposes. It looks like activists in Washington, D.C. are on target to collect enough signatures to put a lowest law enforcement priority proposal in place to direct authorities that the least important thing for them to do is investigate and arrest and jail people for using entheogenic substances, including psilocybin mushrooms and ayahuasca. Now, there's some not so great things, though. A move to decriminalize illegal substances in Washington state abandoned the petition process, and they've opted instead to take a legislative path in 2021. A medical cannabis proposal in North Dakota ended their signature campaign for 2020. Similarly, campaigns to legalize adult use cannabis in Arkansas and Missouri could not make their signature requirements due to the pandemic, but nearly all of those efforts have said they'll try again in 2020. All right, folks. Final story. You know, I always save a special one for the last spot. This comes to us from jdsupra.com. It concerns the case of Nation versus Trump. Docket number 19-16443, filed in the Ninth Circuit, decided June 22nd, 2020. Here's the summary. A woman gets ejected from federal housing for using cannabis. She sues the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. A lower court dismisses her case. She appeals. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals held that lower court was correct to dismiss. You want to know why? The court said that woman did not exhaust her remedies under the Controlled Substances Act because she could petition the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration to reclassify marijuana if she was serious about keeping her apartment. Now, did not exhaust her remedies means she didn't try hard enough to fight the eviction. The court is telling America that she didn't fight hard enough because this single woman didn't accomplish the one thing the government has steadfastly refused to do for decades, reschedule cannabis? Now, when the courts set impossible standards for citizens, we have the right to rise up and demand proper justice. It is to that end we dedicate our show each and every week. And that's the Cannabis News for July 7, 2020. Look for those shows on YouTube and other social media platforms. This is Rick Thompson. Thanks for watching.
All right, Rick. Awesome. Good job again. And, you know, we got to do, I mean, many people in this state kicked out. Mark Ryan, who we all know, the Traverse City area, the tie-dye, something I forgot. I know him as Mark. He's got
Mark Ryan, you're talking about?
Tie-dye.
Mark Ryan? Mark Ryan.
Mark Ryan. Yeah, I'm talking about Mark Ryan. He's, you know, some of his nicknames. Yeah, I know it's Mark Ryan. Some of his nicknames, I'm not sure at the moment, but he wears tie-dye all the time. He's very helpful to other people. Lives up in the Traverse City area. He was not too long ago kicked out of federal housing, and he just had some in there. He wasn't using it in there. He had some. They came into his apartment unannounced, saw it while he was gone, and then booted him out for it. He fought a little bit, and I actually tried to line him up with Josh Colbert, and it just didn't go through for some reason. But maybe same goes. Somebody from Michigan take on that challenge. There was actually a lot of, in a federal case in San Diego area, out of San Diego area, this is also 9th District, there was a very extensive case on this challenge. And they brought in all these experts. So there's stuff on record all over the place. It's awesome. But then the judge said, not this court, not this time for this issue, after taking all this testimony and getting it on record. So it didn't go any further than that. But it is time to challenge it. Just like in our own states, you know, these the controlled substance list needs to be challenged. The national, I mean, our federal list too. And that, you know, that sounds promising. It would be quite awesome enough for some response to that. I mean, you would imagine people in California are looking at it. So I'm sure she's not an isolated case either. So anyway, that one was quite interesting. So if that was the excitement, that one excited me. Good job, well done. I'm excited.
I like to save a good one for the end. Sometimes it's stupid people hauling cannabis from Canada in garbage trucks. Sometimes it's submarines. Sometimes it's idiot legislatures. This time, I mean, really, yeah. by saying to a private citizen, because you didn't force the DEA to change the classification of cannabis, you don't deserve to live in this house that you've been in all these years. That's just so stupid.
There's another thing too, just to add on to the list of news. It could have been a little retread from about a month ago, but you know, after bitching about the legislature passing a requirement to add a warning for pregnant people in cannabis products, there was recently a review of all the existing data and existing studies, and again determined that there's nothing there to demonstrate that it's provided an issue for anybody over the years. And we do know that it has helped people. So that study just recently was reissued. I saw it posted, and I wanted to get to that a little bit today, but that's one we can talk about later too. But a lot of news, a lot of stuff going on, and maybe some promising stuff with a potential challenge coming out of that area. So just like our state government needs to get a better composition, so does the federal government in order to get some of these things moved through.
Well, here's what I think though, is that you can try and change 1,000 bureaucrats in the federal government in order to institute change, or you can get one guy at the top that stomps his foot and with thunderous voice says there will be change, and he makes it happen. And although I don't think Joe Biden's got a thunderous foot, nor do I think he's got an amazingly great voice, I think the people that he surrounds himself with can get that job done.
Well, certainly much better than those surrounding the existing president. And we know that Barr has taken it upon himself to hurt the industry. In fact, he's being investigated for it. You know that not too long ago there was inquiry into weed maps to try to determine which unlicensed companies were advertising out of there. It all came out of the Trump administration. People were wondering where he is on it. A few years in, there's some ideas right there. And he started off by bringing in Jeff Sessions, who tried to peel back progress right away. Congress didn't necessarily let that fly, but that was his position. So,
His two attorney general choices have been terrible. Deb, what you got?
Okay, so now I lost. Oh, I was going to say sometimes the most unlikely person can be your champion too. I mean, think back to LBJ, who brought forth the landmark civil rights movement or the Civil Rights Acts. Nobody expected that out of a conservative dude from Texas like that, you know, and boom, there he was. So, you know, it's not always who you expect. Sometimes somebody comes out of the blue and is able to show some leadership. Obviously, that's not going on now, you know, nationwide, but I'm just saying, let's not count out Biden altogether. Something might happen. Something might gel. It's going to be light years ahead of what's going on now. That's a fact.
Still not a fan, but he is the only reasonable choice. And yes, the chances are much better that he can.
Yeah.
Come on, Roach. What do you got?
Lately.
I was gonna say that's easy for you guys to say because, like, even if he doesn't do anything, you guys are still gonna be straight. You know, I need somebody who's gonna make a change. I can't vote on maybes and mights anymore. Obama burned that up for me.
Yeah, well, there's only that's true. That was kind of disappointing, kind of frustrating. And I agree with that. Just so we're faced with these choices, you know, and that sucks. A lump of shit versus an ocean of diarrhea. So,
yeah, I don't think that's any different than it's always been, though. I mean, I've been voting for damn near 50 years, damn near 50 years, about 50 years. It'll be 50 years in November. And every time there's a national election, you hear that. I've been hearing that since my first vote. It's not much of a choice. It's picking, you know, one evil dude over the other evil dude, you know. So, I mean, nobody's going to ring your chime who's going to win. That's the fact. You know, who's going to have, you know, go down the checklist, who's got a chance of winning. You got to win the damn thing, too. So, you know, so you got to appeal to a broader group. And that's what some people can't kind of, you know, see. I understand the frustrations, but I'm just saying it's been like that forever. It's not a new phenomenon. It probably will never change. It's just because we're a society of people who are all thinking different things.
I'd like to think it changes, though, man. I was saying, you know, it's like I was saying very similar things as others. You know, if Joe's a candidate, I've got no love for the Democratic Party anymore, and I don't like the way they consolidated resources behind him, and all that kind of stuff. I really don't. But unfortunately, the alternative is so incredibly otherworldly horrible that it's really obvious. I'm not going to promote him or anything, but
yeah, I can't say, you know, that it's so the choice is so terrible. Let's just go ahead and leave Trump in there because that's just not where I'm coming from.
No,
sorry,
definitely not.
You know?
I see some local candidates that make me excited for the process. I see people with vision.
Yeah.
We've interviewed some here on this program. So
to support those people, right? Exactly. Spend the time.
Yeah. I mean, everything's local anyway. You know, Trump can run around shaking his fist all he wants. He's not affecting my little world right here as much as he thinks he is. You know what I'm saying? My shit's controlled locally.
Were you trying to get something in there, Roach?
No, I was agreeing that, we do have to vote local.
Joe, what do you think about this, man?
Well, again, my stance has always been clear. This is an issue of economics. If we're going to talk about putting somebody in office, that person needs to be talking about a hell of an economics program that's going to change the condition of people in poverty. Until that happens, nothing is going to change. It has to happen from the bottom. All this trickle down bullshit just hasn't worked for generations, didn't work
Never.
for my grandfather's generation, and it's
Yeah.
not going to work for future generations.
No, and
Trump's
they keep
big
bringing it
tax
out
cut
like
for
it's
business
new
didn't do
shit.
you.
Yeah, they keep bringing it out like it's new shit. Trickle down economics has never trickled down to any of us, and never will. Never.
When they did trickle down economics during the Reagan period, you know what happened? They bought more yachts, bought more vacation properties,
same
consolidated
shit.
more real estate, and hoarded more wealth, and it did not appreciably increase average wage to the consumer. Right now, we're so far behind the cost of living index on our average wage or our minimum wage. It's unreal. No one can survive on the minimum wage we give right now. And if you're not providing a wage that gives someone the ability to live independently, then I think we're really as a society saying, I devalue you person that's forced to live at minimum wage. I don't respect you. And that's
And I'm not necessarily saying that like affirmative action is the best or the worst, but like there's definitely been like understandings and legislation in the past that was like the opposite of affirmative action,
Yeah.
and I know that makes people uncomfortable, but that's a huge part of the problem.
Yeah, so you have to make a big self-correct in the other direction to bring everybody into the same playing field. I don't see how people don't understand that either.
If you don't want to understand, it's easy to dismiss it. If you
and
don't want to.
Nobody wants to lose their position in life, especially if you feel comfortable.
That's a root problem right there. Some people have to be uncomfortable to make others comfortable. Again, now we're getting back to these root causes of, why people do things and what makes people make the decisions they make.
When people say things like, I don't see color, I want to shake them. I want to shake them like a child. Because I need you to see color. If you don't see color, then you'll never correct the problems that are based on race, that are based on color. And when you say I don't see color, you're giving yourself an out to ignore reality, to ignore the need to change. And we can't do that. As a personal philosophy, I like to treat everybody equal. But the fact is, our society needs to pay attention to race until everything is equal. Then let's not pay attention to it anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get the spirit behind the statement of I don't see color, but like life is bland without color, and like without seeing color, then you're like ignoring all the different cultures and ethnicities that are out there. Like
right.
Like there's no such thing as like white people and black people. Everybody has like their own specific little culture and thing that's special about their region, and I think that should be celebrated.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe better to say that I don't see color, maybe better to say is I don't judge by color. Because obviously you want to see color. The world is a beautiful, colorful place, you know?
If you have a great world philosophy and you want to lead by example, that's a wonderful thing to do, because that's the only way people really change is by seeing examples and then emulating it, it seems. I mean, you can tell someone to be respectful.
And I'll say, like, along with like the economic disparity that Joe's talking
these differences that we're all in this ball of humanity together.
I don't know what Jamie said.
Jamie, your video's frozen, so we can't tell when you're talking. Now you're actually gone, so we can tell you're not talking now.
He's on a break. Much needed break.
A much needed
I was
break.
gonna say, along with like the economic disparity that Joe was talking about, I'll say like one of the biggest problems, and here's the one that I've never heard anyone address, and I don't know how to fix either, is that Black people and a lot of minorities to a large extent have been robbed of their culture. they have been robbed of that regional roots and getting in touch with your ancestors. Like there's really no way to do that, like, in a concrete way that's going to give that back, because that's like a certain level of pride. I'm biracial. I was raised with Mexican people. I have a lot of pride about that. When things feel a certain way, I like call on my ancestors and stuff, and people don't have that. And that's horrible. That's horrible. That's like a large part of your identity. So like it's more than just economic. I mean, that's going to help you, but we all know what money does when you don't have any type of like character or anything behind that. There's a lot more that needs to be done than just throwing money at the problem.
Joe does a great series, talks about carceral cities and talks about particular zip codes inside the city of Detroit where a ridiculous percentage of adults face criminal charges or face criminal penalties or are under supervision by the penal system. And you can throw a bunch of money at a system all you want, like Roach said, but if you don't fix the fact that people are still discriminated against because of their past, if you can't empower them to be able to move up, then it doesn't help those people. You've got a whole generation left behind. So we have to come up with a solution that absolves them of those issues
That's why
and in a permanent way.
That's
In
gonna take a
favor of
while.
reparations. Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
I was going to say that's going to take a while, but in terms of economics, I'm not talking about throwing money at people. The issue of economics comes down to simple numbers: your zip code, your social security number, your credit score. All those are some bullshit numbers that many people can never rise up from simply because of the deck is stacked against them from the beginning, simply because of those numbers. When you begin to change the economic condition of any community by improving your school system, by bringing in the types of entrepreneurship that many people want to get into, but they lack what they call the credit worthiness to get money. SBA loans is bullshit. Only 1 out of 10 African Americans even get an SBA loan. So the issue of economics is more than just throwing money at people. They've done that many times and it's never worked. But again, when you change the education system, when you change the opportunity for housing where people can protect their families and live in safe, secure neighborhoods, that changes the economics of the entire community. The chances of criminality begins to diminish simply because people have something else to do and more to lose than going out committing some damn heinous acts of crime. And as far as cultural heritage goes, the best scholars have noted this in African-American history, that without historical documentation to any group of people on this planet, you lose your connection to who you are and where you belong on the face of this earth. And that is what has happened when you transplant a group of people from one continent to another and leave them there in their diaspora. So when you lose your historical value or your historical connection, you begin to lose a hell of a lot more than just where you came from. All cultures can go back and trace their history. And we can see that in any group. But when it comes to the African American, when you're removed from your culture, your history somehow got either eliminated in books or was just never taught to you and told.
5 minutes left on the show, by the way. 5 minutes left.
Yep. Yep. So Joe, that was pretty good, man. We had a little bit of sound problems, but I caught most of it. Really appreciate your input there. So maybe it's time for you to do the presentation again on Zoom. Get it out there again at this point. I think some of that information probably timely. Yeah. So we do have 5 minutes left, and need to reiterate if anybody's got any final words to say. Joe, you want to leave us with anything?
Joe, did you have any final comments to share with our audience?
Sure. Let's try to work together to resolve these problems that we're all faced with. We all have problems. We're all going to have to deal with this. But if we come together as a collective, I believe the resolve of the American public and us as a collective group, we're going to win this shit. It's not going to be a defeatist attitude. I'm not one to fall on the sword, and I know you guys are not either.
All right,
Roach, anything you want to wrap up with?
Yeah, no, I want to say great show, guys. Thanks for having me on. Medical Mondays podcast on YouTube every Monday, 9 to 11. Take care of each other, smoke weed, and
You got some special surprises coming up this next week.
Yeah. Medical Mondays teased us with a special surprise guest coming up this next show, right?
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll give you another clue if anybody's coming from
Well, let's
last
hear
night.
the first clue.
Oh, well, it's going to be a hometown guy, one of the community. And he's taken a venture into cultivating a particular strain. And that's all I can tell you.
Can I guess now? Do I get to guess now?
Sure.
Okay, Darren McCarty?
Close, but no.
How about
Not
Al?
Darren?
It's Al Harrington.
Okay.
Al?
No.
Somebody in that circle?
All right, hey,
Before we go, I just want to
keep the cliffhanger alive. Go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
I just want to mention I start a brand new podcast series tomorrow at 1:00 with Mike Brennan. It's a every other week series specifically focused on cannabis business, interviews, and news. That jumps off at 1:00. You'll be able to see a link to that on my Facebook page. Please join us. It should be fun. Should be a good time.
All right, so look out for Weeds and Reeds, planting green trees Thursday night at 8 o'clock, and at 7 o'clock tonight, the Democratic Cannabis Caucus.
And Jeff
Irwin from home, also
Facebook.
7 o'clock tonight.
Yeah.
All quick stuff.
Zoom meetings.
Yeah, and there's a gathering of decriminalized nature of the psychedelic society or something.
It's on the 18th in West Park.
Okay.
It's a couple weeks away.
And on the night of the 17th, I think Rick and I and Jeff Irwin and Denise Kirchhoff and some others are going to be on a discussion panel.
Yeah.
Also, well, we talked about that again.
Ray.
Yeah, what do we got
Went over Ormond Squad is a pretty good spot. to talk about.
That's on the 25th, along with the highway cleanup with Northeast Michigan North, which we've also talked about again. And thank you for bringing that up. Is Ray's going to play in Botanical Gardens?
Oh, and one other thing is I watched this thing this morning. National Normal did a Zoom meeting on Dr. Grinspoon. He passed away a couple.
You know what?
Like
We
a week and a half
we
ago.
didn't address that here, did we? I've talked about it a lot. We haven't addressed
Yeah,
that.
we did.
Oh, we did? Okay.
But
Let's bring it
Yeah,
up.
no, we did.
But check out it. It's still on YouTube, on Facebook, and on their page. It's really, really.
Well, hey, another great show. Really appreciate everybody participating. We have to sign off as part of the new rules here at Cave Radio, all the protocols and stuff like that. So there's more time to clean up. And we are going to do that. Cave for Jazz Cabbage Cafe. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
See everyone. Thank you. Good show.
Pass it.